everybody. Welcome back to the CCSN podcast. I'm Chris here with Chase. Chase, how are you doing today?
I'm doing absolutely great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We are 5 hours away from game one of the World Series, 6 hours. So I am just counting down the hours till then. We have a lot more to discuss today, though. Let's jump right into the NFL. Give me a key matchup this week, something that you're really looking forward to, something that just catches your eye.
I think we're kind of going to get a very similar game in the Packers and Bills to what we got with the Bucks Ravens last night, I believe it was. And I feel like the Packers and the Bucks are very similar teams, two teams with all-time great quarterbacks that are underperforming. Their teams are underperforming, but the quarterbacks are still great. And the Bills, they're much better than the Ravens, but they're a firepower team. They're a very good team with a lot of weapons and a lot of defensive talent. And I think that we're going to see, we already saw right now that Brady doesn't have the juice within him and within the team to overcome that kind of a matchup. And we're going to see now do the Packers, because if not, it might be about time to start seeing the end of Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers being the best two quarterbacks in the league. We might have to start saying, well, I mean, I feel like it already is time, but Mahomes and Allen, they're officially taking the mantle. It's been kind of happening for a while now, but it looks official now.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy the downfall that Tom Brady's had over the past couple of weeks. He just announced his divorce officially today, which is obviously sad for his family situation and the Bucks too. So that's just not really looking good for him right now. This is the first time in Tom Brady's career that he's 2 games under 500, which is actually insane to me. And just as I said last episode, it's making it pretty clear that he made the wrong decision coming out of retirement.
Yeah, it's always fun to see these shifts in eras as it's happening. I mean, the last one that I can really remember, I wasn't alive for the NFL one with Tom Brady taking over and becoming the new era, and Aaron Rodgers as well. I mean, those were way too early for me. I guess really the closest thing is like Steph Curry taking the torch from Kobe Bryant is kind of how this feels to me. And the play that instantly comes to my mind is the preseason game where Steph Curry falls down and then he hits the shot over Kobe Bryant and walks back down the other end and Kobe slaps his butt. I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing here a little bit. I mean, I know I was talking about Lamar, or I was talking about Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. You can throw Lamar in that conversation too. And Tom Brady has been very vocal about being a huge fan of Lamar. And we've seen a lot of those clips come out of Brady, giving Lamar showing Lamar love, saying he's a huge fan. And that kind of stuff is the way that the game grows. And now we're going to start seeing a bit of a shift and a new era of players taking over, a new era of quarterbacks. And when's the last time that happened?
Yeah, it's been a very long time. It was always, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Big Ben, Drew Brees for as long as I can remember. And now it's really shifting towards these young quarterbacks who aren't that young anymore. They're, as you said, they're really, turning into the franchise of this league. It's exciting to watch. And, there's the three big names. There's the Josh Allen, there's the Patrick Mahomes, and then there's the Lamar Jackson. I'm kind of excited to see who else is going to be thrown in there over the next couple of decades. We have not couple next decade. We have Joe Burrow, we have Justin Herbert, and I'm excited to see where these narratives go from here on out. Because
can I just sidebar a little bit here on the Justin
Go ahead.
Herbert? There is now a conversation on Twitter, and not just like a little conversation, genuine, real conversation on Twitter about Tua being better than Herbert, and that being actually the right pick. And Tua actually performs great in the fourth quarter when they're down by 7, because I feel like that's the only real stat that I've seen back it up. When they're within 7 points in the fourth quarter, that's when they compare Tua's stats to Herbert. They're playing 4 quarters. You can't compare them in these minute, small sample size situations. And you got to use your eyes sometimes. The numbers are all great, and I like math, I like statistics more than anybody in the world, but you got to use your eyes sometimes. Watch the games, and you can see very, very obviously that Herbert is so much better. And do you think that he really has the capability of being pushed into that top tier? Because I don't see why not. I've been a huge Herbert hater, but I feel like he's got the talent and the tools to get pushed into that tier. He's just not there yet.
I absolutely do. I mean, I've been a big Justin Herbert supporter since the day he was drafted. And my biggest thing with him is, as you said last episode, he doesn't have the weapons right now. On paper, it might look good, but again, that's on paper. He doesn't have the burners. And a guy like Justin Herbert as your quarterback, that's what you want. You want that burner offense, those guys who can get down the field, get loose, and Herbert can just throw him a rocket to them. And he doesn't have that right now. I mean, his best wide receiver is Mike Williams, who's a very good wide receiver. And he has Keenan Allen, who's, been hurt and non-existent this whole year. And he seems like a shell of himself right now. And I don't know. I need to see a lot of things change within the Chargers organization. Not really Justin Herbert himself, but, we'll see what happens. And the NFL offenses can change in one off season. So we have to really see what the Chargers front office, where they stand right now. Is Staley your head coach of the future? Because I don't think so. I think he's actually a bottom tier head coach, and he's holding Justin Herbert back. And a lot of the decision making, that J.C. Jackson contract right now is looking like it's going to bite them in the ass. And that's not what you want from a cornerback you just paid $100 million. So there's a lot of things going wrong with the Chargers right now. But you have Justin Herbert as your quarterback, and that rookie deal is ending pretty damn soon. So you got to figure it out. You're going to be stuck in that loop in the NFL where you're paying your quarterback $45 million and you're going to have to figure out how to maneuver everything else around him.
Yeah, I said it when he was a rookie. I feel like Justin Herbert, I understand everybody wants him to follow the career path of Mahomes or something like that, but it feels almost identical to Philip Rivers. Like to me, it looks almost identical. And he's either got to leave the Chargers organization, which feels cursed, or even if it's not cursed. It's just they've got bad management and they've had bad management for a long time. But you've got to get out of that situation, put yourself into an area where you can actually have good weapons around you and have a good cast around you, or your career is not going to look the same in retrospect as you might think it would, because he's got the talent to really put himself in that name or in that group with names like Aaron Rodgers, like Tom Brady, like Patrick Mahomes, like all of these guys, but he's not really there yet. And how much more can he do himself? I know he could probably be a little bit more aggressive in taking hits and stepping into throws and stuff like that, but there's not much more that he can personally do until what's the ceiling with that Chargers organization? So yeah, I mean, that's just my little Chargers rant. They suck. Herbert's good, but not in that conversation yet.
They need to fix a lot of things before I was high on the Chargers this offseason. I kind of fell for the free agent signings and stuff because they made good free agent signings, but I didn't really look deep enough into their offensive weapons. And you know what, it's coming back to bite them, and they should be on the trade market. You don't have to go out and get a big guy. You need a speedster on this offense. It's really.
Do you want to give them more? Because they spent so much this offseason. I get to take my little victory lap here because I was nowhere near as high on the Chargers as most people. I actually said they'd probably finish in the third or fourth spot in the division. And there were people saying 15-2, 14-3. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous considering this team schematically could not stop the run. Yeah, you've got Tillery in there, Jerry Tillery, trying to be your interior defensive tackle. It doesn't matter. He's still playing in the wrong positions. You're still not lining him up right. You're still playing 3 down linemen against the run. That's always going to come back and bite you in the ass. And I didn't think that they would have had to make a huge overhaul in their offense or in their team with moves that I liked. I did not like the J.C. Jackson move and the Khalil Mack move. I mean, come on. The writing was all over the wall. He's been okay, but the writing was all over the wall for him not to be who he was. He played 3 games last year. He is 32 years old. I think he's 33. He's got a huge contract, and he's an edge rusher that relies a lot on just bulldozing through people. That kind of stuff goes away with injuries. And it was so obvious. And you spent, I think it was north of $100 million on this roster this offseason. And they're nowhere close to competing. So what do they can't change too much about it because they've got all this locked up, and then you're going to have to pay Herbert. They
got to change everything in Joey Bosa's body to stop him from getting injured every single week. I mean, the dude just gets hurt, and that's always the end of the Chargers season, it seems like.
How many times do you hear, an injury-prone team took a chance on an injury-prone player and they got hurt? It's them. It's like the Niners. It's the Ravens. I could put the Giants in there, but the Giants also have that field, which kind of screws them over. MetLife, that's just like the death sentence. But there's just a couple of teams that will always take these chances on injury-prone players because of the talent. and just say, oh, well, whatever. And then you hear a bunch of fans saying, why aren't they changing the medical staff? Why aren't they firing the doctors? Like they even know who the doctors are. No, the truth is you're taking chances on players who are more likely to get injured. And when they get injured, it's not the doctor's fault. It's not the coach's fault. It's nobody's fault but the people that brought them in and decided, yeah, we're taking that chance. And that's kind of what we see. And just on that note, Christian McCaffrey. That's
Oh
another
yeah.
guy. They traded way too much for an injury-prone running back, making $20 million. But I feel like that's a total. I think we already covered that last. Sometimes I lose track.
I agree. I mean, that's the thing though. I mean, the rumors going around was that was the asking price. People were offering it and the 49ers just offered more. And, from my standpoint, your standpoint, we kind of have the similar outlook on this. You never want to give up that much for a running back. I don't care how skilled you are. There's so many guys in the league, especially with the committee that you can just run. And we're not talking about fantasy football. We're talking about winning legit football games. You can win a Super Bowl with a very good running back committee. And that's in my eyes. I mean, how many running backs do we see have a fantastic year and keep it up year after year? I mean, I know there's the little prime examples of that, but Jonathan Taylor, it's just one key guy to me. If your whole offense is based around one single guy and he goes down, you're gonna have a problem. I know they have the Matt Ryan issue right now, which looks like a complete disaster. Their offensive line hasn't been the same, but Matt Ryan going into this thought that most of his job was going to be handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, and that's not what it's been.
Yeah, I don't understand how and this is getting a little bit off topic from our thing here, but the Colts, what were they even thinking, man, with this? They tried to do this, run the ball the whole game with Carson Wentz. Don't give Carson Wentz the ball. Don't put it in a position where he can turn the ball over. Carson Wentz, one of the most turnover-prone quarterbacks in the league, threw only 7 picks last year. He didn't change the way he played. He didn't play a lot better, even though if you ask stat sheet watchers, he did. No, he was taken out of those positions and put into positions to just hand the ball off and do the simple things. Now, Carson Wentz actually genuinely did not do a terrible job at that. And say what you want, but they won, I think it was 9 games last year, close to that. They choked it at the end of the year. Is that really on Carson Wentz, or is it just the fact that your whole organization and your coaching staff is not really run the right way? And yes, some of it is on Carson Wentz. You had to do that to limit him. But then you bring Matt Ryan in, who's another quarterback that you have to limit and the guy that you have to really game plan around in a fairly similar way to Carson Wentz, because they've both got huge limitations in their game. So there was no upgrade at quarterback, and at a position where you're always trying to upgrade, always trying to get the best guy available. How can you make that move and expect to still be competitive? And obviously they're not. But I feel like I've been saying this the whole time, and I never got the thought process in bringing in Matt Ryan. He was cooked last year. His arm strength was gone, completely gone.
There's been some throws this year where it's an absolute meatball or just a balloon throw, and it looks awful coming out of his hand. I mean, you're going back to your point with Carson when they limited him to, passing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, easy passes, but he did it right. And, I'm not saying he's a great quarterback by any means, or he's even that good by any means, but you should have stuck with him. That's where I look at it from. I mean, the guy's more mobile. He can get around more. And if you see Matt Ryan sitting in the pocket, he's terrible. He has no movement at all. And that's the difference between a guy like him and a guy like Tom Brady. Tom Brady, even at his ripe age of like 45 years old right now, still moves around the pocket pretty decently for an old man. And then there's a guy like Matt Ryan who looks like a bag of bricks out there. So, I mean, I'm not saying Tom Brady's Lamar Jackson or anything, but just the difference between those two guys. Matt Ryan's not, though.
He's got like the anticipation of where he needs to be, even if he's not able to do it quickly, and his feet are like stones, as are Matt Ryan's. Matt Ryan seems to just like not have any awareness on the field, which is weird because he's a guy that's one ring, or no, one rings. That would be funny. Won an MVP. But it doesn't seem to be putting himself together for Matt Ryan this year, and it's never going to again. This is kind of like, I feel like he retires after this year, or is a backup somewhere.
It's a sad downfall of a guy like Matt Ryan. Never had anything against him.
I was never really a Matt Ryan guy. I feel like he kind of got overrated with the offenses he was in and the talent around him. There was a time once where he had a decent arm, but it's been a long time since then, and Matt Ryan's been coasting. I mean, how many times did we hear that, Matt Ryan's getting screwed by the Falcons the second he gets out of Atlanta? He's going to be great again. Former MVP, Matty Ice. No, man, come on. Like the arm strength hasn't been there since he turned 30, and the pocket mobility has never been there. So we're just seeing a fairly obvious end to Matt Ryan's career. But the Colts and Jim Irsay and his ultimate wisdom could not see it.
I'm kind of excited to see where the Colts go moving forward, though.
Get a
Like it's
left tackle. Get a fucking left tackle. If you're gonna bring all these statue quarterbacks, just get a left tackle, please, for the love of God. I had to get that off my chest. It's ugly.
I mean, Andre Dillard's been sitting there for everybody, it seems like, and the whole
They
league's
want it
been
first.
interested into him. I would too. I mean, the amount of teams who have probably called for Dillard, keep that price tag high, baby. I mean,
How many
it's
how
worth
many tackles are available?
exactly.
It's
It's
Andre
worth
Dillard.
it.
That's it.
And Harry Roseman's king. But moving forward to this game that I'm looking forward to this week, just kind of the competitive edge. I mean, I know I'm looking at the Giants versus the Seahawks game. The Giants are 6-1. I do know that. Yes, the Seahawks are 4-3. But I feel like it's a very evenly matched game. I like this game for both teams. I kind of can see where they both stand. I mean, the Giants have been getting coached brilliantly. They just lost Tony, which is that whole situation is kind of funny because as soon as he was traded, I don't know if you saw that tweet that he put out, and he's like, "Oh well, I'm not injured anymore." But I thought that was pretty funny. But Geno Smith, is this the age of a new franchise running, but not franchise running back, but a superstar running back in Kenneth Walker? We're in game 3 right now against a 6-1 team. He really hasn't proven it yet against a great defense. So I'm not calling the Giants a great defense by any means, but they have a better defensive line than the Chargers right now. So I don't know. I'm just really looking forward to this game. Things from Kenneth Walker, see if Daniel Jones can keep this up, and let's see how far the Giants can take this.
This is the one the Giants lose. And you know how I can guarantee you that because the Giants run exclusively man coverage, which has worked against no wide receivers so far. They got the two good teams they played were the Packers and the Ravens. Ravens without Bateman, Packers have no wide receivers. So they do have some quality wins, but they've got a huge weakness. Look at that secondary. There's nobody over 5'10" in the secondary. I think it's Adoree Jackson and Darnay Holmes on the outside. That's exploitable, very exploitable. And they haven't been this season because they haven't really gone up against any talented wide receivers at all. Now you have this week, and you're going up against DK, Tyler Lockett.
DK is not playing.
DK is playing. As far as I know, DK is playing.
He avoided surgery, I saw, and they said he might be sidelined for 2 to 3 weeks. But I could be wrong. I saw that yesterday.
That being said, I still like the matchup here because the Seahawks have been dominating man coverage all season long. The Geno Smith has been statistically the second best quarterback behind, I think it was Patrick Mahomes, against man coverage. And like I said, this team plays exclusively man. With DK not being there, it does hurt a little bit because now I was really expecting him to have that matchup with Adoree Jackson and kind of dominate it. But it's still a team that's exposed man coverage all year long. And the Giants are – this feels like the game that their flaw gets exposed because so far they've been great in run defense. They've been great running the ball themselves, but they haven't been able to cover anybody. And it's just – it takes one or two deep plays over the top to get blown coverage from a man-to-man assignment on Tyler Lockett to make it a 14-0 game or just a 2-score game in general. And that's kind of how I feel like this game's going to go, although now that I hear DK is out, I'm not as confident about locking it. That's what I'm going to say.
I think the Seahawks are going to kind of see what Kenneth Walker's made of this game, though. I mean, it's a better defensive line that he's matched up against, as I said, and I think it's just time to use him that much. I mean,
they already did. They used him 25 carries for 170 last week. This is a tough matchup for him because Dexter Lawrence in the middle played incredible, and then they got Thibodeau on the outside and Ojulari, who are both quick edge rushers and are able to contain very well. This is a tough matchup for Walker. I got to be honest on that one. I don't.
Oh, I know it's tough, but let's see what he's made of. I mean, he was going against the bottom 3 rush attack last week. I mean, he was fantastic, but I really want to see what he's against a great run defense. Not great, but very good, especially as of right now. I mean, Kayvon's looked fantastic. They have a lot of good pieces out there, and I like the Seahawks offensive line. It's pretty young right now, and I think it's just a good matchup for both teams to see what they're both made of, especially in the interior.
Here's where on the Kenneth Walker thing, it's tough for me because I really do genuinely believe that he's an all-time level talent. He's got the running style that's like not normal. He just looks different on the field, and he's so incredibly difficult to tackle. You can tell. I've never tried to tackle the guy. I think you can guess that, but he looks incredibly difficult to tackle, and it shows up with the contact balance on tape too. But it's just the matchup here is not really Kenneth Walker versus the defense. It's the Seahawks O line versus the Giants D line, and the interior of the Seahawks O line. While I do like their tackles, the interior is kind of weak, and Dexter Lawrence feels like a guy that's just going to eat that up. And he's been playing like 99% of the snaps. So there's not even going to be a break. Like, you're not going to get a break from the guy. He's just going to be in there clogging up the middle the whole time. And assuming they don't, like, what happens if the Giants get the ball first, put up a touchdown early off the back of Saquon, then you're down. You're looking to come back in this game. And I know it's a 7-point deficit, but that kind of stuff, game plan and game script, is something you gotta plan for. And I don't know that the Seahawks without DK are going to be able to put themselves in a position where they're able to run the ball that much.
I just don't see a world where the Seahawks are going to be heavily relying to win this game on the wide receiver duo of Tyler Lockett and Marquise Goodwin. I mean, I know Goodwin had a really good game yesterday or last week, but I don't know if you can keep that up for more than a week, if I'm being honest. But you know, I'm excited to see.
They need to make a trade, the Seahawks, for another wide receiver. And I know they've already got DK, but like Marquise Goodwin is third. I feel like they're just get one more person in there and make that offense completely dynamic. Like make it unstoppable. Get Jerry Jeudy in your slot. That's what I like.
I really want to see Jerry Jeudy moved, but we'll discuss that later. But I really want to see the Seahawks go out and trade for a cornerback, if I'm being honest. I mean, I like their offense right now, and I do agree it could use another wide receiver, but that secondary, it needs some help. I mean, they got a stud late in I think it was like the 5th round this year, and he's been really playing up to standards, which has been fantastic for them. And I don't know, like, it doesn't have to be a big name, but maybe a guy like Hall from the Jets. I mean, he's not that good, but I think you can get him for cheaper, and he's their 3rd cornerback right now on their roster. So I don't know. I think they need to make a little trade in that secondary.
I like the Hall idea, especially because they took Reed from him.
That was I mean, I loved that signing coming into this year, but I don't know. I feel like the Seahawks right now, you have to look at this division from a standpoint of, we're here to win this division right now. I mean, it's very even. The 49ers, as great as they are on paper, their defense got rocked last week, and you have to take that into consideration. Exactly. So, I mean, this is anyone's division right now, and you got to go and you got to make moves to win it. I mean, shout out Pete Carroll. He's done fantastic things with this roster, and it seems like the roster loves him. And Russell Wilson leaving this team kind of really changed it, which, I'm going to be honest, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect this much of a character change. I feel like last season, whenever you looked at the Seahawks play or just heard anything about the Seahawks, it was just like a rainy day in Seattle. And this year, it's like the Seahawks team's having fun. And it's one of those teams where you kind of want them to get in the playoffs just to see what they can do. And it's always fun to have this fun team. And I did not think it was going to be the Seahawks this year. I thought they were going to be better than they were projected, but did I think that it'd be almost November and we'd be talking about making a little playoff push? I didn't think so.
No, I don't think anybody did. And especially if you would have told them that Jamal Adams went down for the season in week 2. Like exactly. I understand the defense and their secondary, and Jamal Adams not really a secondary player, but I understand their defense has been a little bit not what you'd like. But Jamal Adams himself, he's been great. Since coming to Seattle and being hurt, that's not good. Like, that's not going to help your defense. But coming back next season, I really think that he could be another huge impact player for them. And that's just such a big addition to a secondary, basically, or just to your defense in general, because it's hard to quantify his position. I feel like he's kind of more of a linebacker at times, but he also plays in the secondary, which is a little bit difficult to talk about. But Jamal Adams, he is a very important player if you're able to take him in context, because he's not a good coverage guy.
I feel like he should be moved to middle linebacker. Just make a move like that and go out there and get a real safety. And that's the thing with the Seahawks this offseason. They have money.
It's not like Jamal Adams is even bad in too high coverage, though. He's not good, and he doesn't do it very often. But he is serviceable, and they don't have that many guys that are back there. So right now, I feel like that's kind of the right move. Jamal Adams is his own position on defense. There is no way you can't put a strong safety tag on him. You can't put a free safety. You can't put a linebacker. He's on the field. That's what he is. And when he's on the field, the defense is better. When he's off the field, the defense is worse. And I feel like that's kind of how it is with a lot of the top safeties of all time. Look at Brian Dawkins. Brian Dawkins, you look at him as a free safety. He didn't play free safety all the time. He just didn't. Look at Cam Chancellor. Cam Chancellor didn't play strong safety all the time. He played a lot in the box. So it really comes down to building a defense with guys around that. But having him come back next season, I think is going to be huge. It's really my main point here.
Oh, absolutely. And especially now that this team's gonna be like, wow, we kind of got some swagger. Let's build around it. And as I said, I mean, they have money this offseason. They're paying Geno Smith. I'm not sure, but it's probably not that much. And even if they were to extend him, I think the Seahawks are smart enough to not, overpay this guy. Give him maybe like a 1 or 2 year contract extension and work around it. And I'm excited to see what they do moving forward. It seems like they finally started to address the offensive line. So, let's see. I do hope they make the playoff push. But anyway else, one other thing I want to talk about the NFL before we move on is the Bucs. I mean, I know we talked about the game a little bit, but man, like 3-5, their linebacker core looks awful right now. Just everything about this team. We talked about it last week. They just look old, and that's really it. I don't really want to talk about the Bucs. I want to talk about the NFC in general. Is there a second best team in the NFC right now? That's my big question. Like, what would be the second best team? The Eagles are the best team, but you know what? Even as an Eagles fan, I am not bought into this team. And if you told me they lost in the divisional round, I would believe it if I'm being 1,000%. I love this team. I think they're the best team in the NFC right now. But is there a second best team that you would lock in? Like, are you ready to call the Vikings the second best team in the NFC?
Yeah.
And
That's just because the rest of the NFC is so weak. I feel like it's like the Vikings or the Giants, but like also I feel like there's no favorite to win I mean, I know the Eagles should be, but there's no like obvious better team than everybody else, in my opinion. I'm with you when we're talking about the Eagles. They don't have all of it, the great teams, the ones that you want to be the favorites, they have everything, and they have an answer for everything. The Eagles don't have an answer for the blitz. They really don't yet. Jalen Hurts is still developing on it, and he's still working on it. Jalen Hurts is still not good against the blitz. You blitz this guy, and you're able to get home. And I know the offensive line is great. They're able to neutralize some of those issues, but send 8 of them. It's the same formula that the Bucs used in the playoffs last year. AJ Brown's great at beating man coverage. He's one of the best in the league. I want to see more consistent throws over the middle of the field from Jalen Hurts before I'm saying that there's even somebody that I'm even willing to lock at the number 1 team. But if I had to right now, I'd say probably the top 3 teams in the NFC are like the Eagles, the Vikings, and the Giants. Which
it's crazy to say. It's kind of sad to say that, but yeah, it's just crazy. Coming into this year, there was all the discussion about if the Packers would be themselves again, the Vikings, blah blah blah. But then there's the Bucs, and everyone said, "Oh, they'll be fine. They'll win a division again. They'll win the conference." And right now, they just look depleted, and it's kind of crazy to see. And then calling the Giants the top 3 team in the NFC, never thought I'd be doing that. And I'm very glad that I didn't bet their win under. They're under of win and losses. So that's something I'll take as a W.
Man, when I saw 7 for that, I thought it was an easy take. I didn't take it, luckily, but
absolutely. But I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see after the trade deadline. This has been a serious trade deadline so far. There's been some key players moved, and the NFL trade deadline is always kind of dead. It always seems like it's more hype than anything. But right now, with all the rumors going around, I think there's going to be 1 or 2 big moves that can kind of change the picture a little bit.
I hope so. And if there are, we'll be right here to talk about them.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, moving on, a little bit of the NBA today. One player I just want to talk about, and team, the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, Ben Simmons, it seems like the Nets are having the same problems that the Sixers had. We have players yelling at him to shoot the ball. We have players yelling at him to be more aggressive. This guy has not changed at all. And I know, he's, you see all the other things that the players are saying, give him time. It's only been 3 games for 2 years. We've given him time. We've given him 6 years.
Yeah. How much more time does Ben Simmons get, man? Like, this is so funny to me.
Like, I don't know if you saw, but he airballed that layup yesterday, and then uh, Kyrie Irving screaming at him, shoot the ball," and Kevin Durant looks just pissed off out there. This team just looks not good. It looks like this is we always talk about you want your team to have fun, you want your team to enjoy playing together because that's what it really takes to win. This team right now, I would not put $1 on them to do anything this year.
What they have right now is they've got two really good players on their roster in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and they're going out there with the mindset of, I'm going to put up a bunch of points today. I'm going to score a lot today. And then the rest of their roster, which you can win with that. There have been, like, I don't know that you can win a championship, but you can go pretty far with two guys that can score a lot and they can score in bunches, and they're very good at what they do. But then the rest of the team, you've got Ben Simmons, who doesn't fit very well into that. He takes up space on a court if he's not fully engaged in every single play. He sits down in the dunker spot and takes away either the entire left side of the lane or the entire right side of the lane. It causes a lot of congestion and a lot of clogging. It takes away like driving lanes from a lot of players. That's a huge issue with Ben Simmons. He probably plays about 90% of the time in the dunker spot, right on the block. And that was something in Philly too. But you've got that. You've got okay center in Nick Claxton. I don't trust him. He's not really somebody that you can really just put in the middle, get boards, play great defense, and trust to always be the big man. He's kind of a conditional big man. You can play him in some lineups, but other lineups he'll get eaten up by Joel Embiid, by Jokic, by Davis. So you're less susceptible to that. And then you've got kind of a weaker bench unit with not a lot of good ball handling. They've got Edmund Summer playing real minutes for them. They've got a bunch of guys like that. So there's no cohesion. There's no consistency with their lineups. It's just you've got two players that you're trying to throw out there to go get buckets and stagger their minutes. So you always have somebody talented on the court, but you never really have an actual lineup with like cohesion and chemistry out there. You've just got a bunch of guys on a court surrounding these two players. And that's not how you build a championship team. And that's what the Nets are really hoping to be this year. It's nowhere close.
Not at all. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but Nets fans have been pointing it out all the time on social media. I know it's only 4 or 5 games into the season now, but Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, they play no defense at all. I mean, Kyrie's been known for that. That's really no surprise. But a guy like Kevin Durant, who was getting, the in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year a couple of years ago.
That always bothered me.
How fantastic he was and all these things. So if you watch him now, you kind of want to get matched up with Kevin Durant. He's really putting no effort out there on the floor. And, going back to even last offseason when he wanted to get traded, I feel like he's making it even evident, dropping 30 points a night still, that I don't want to be here. I mean, even if you see their ticket sales are last in the league, the Nets are last in the league in everything. And I feel like Kevin Durant's kind of starting to feel the effect of that. No one gives a fuck about this team. Having two, in my opinion, I don't know. I'd put Kevin Durant in the top 15, but I don't really know where I'd put Kyrie Irving. He's difficult to evaluate with that. But you have 2 top talent players of all time on this roster, and nobody gives a fuck where you play. And I feel like that is a big part of it with Kevin Durant right now, especially. Kyrie Irving.
Those two have never been likable players, though. Kyrie Irving at a point was fairly likable, but the negative media storm around Kyrie Irving is not something I need to be explaining to anybody. Everybody sees it. And Kevin Durant, he makes it himself. He was in Oklahoma City one of the more liked players in the NBA. I mean, that Thunderstruck movie, after that, I was a huge Kevin Durant fan. And there were plenty of
terrible movie.
Oh, it's it's one of the worst movies of all time, but I love it.
It's so bad.
And I had a Kevin Durant jersey growing up, an OKC Kevin Durant jersey. I hate the guy. I genuinely hate the guy because of the way he goes. I feel like he's great, like all time great. But I feel like he, even as good as he is, thinks he's better than he is. And that just is not something that is likable or something that you really want to be around. And at the end of the day, this is a team sport. This is not Kevin Durant going out there and playing one-on-one or Kyrie Irving going out there and playing one-on-one. You're trying to win games and you're trying to win a championship. And it's hard to do that around guys that are not likable. And they don't seem like they're very likable right now. They're not engaged.
The thing that pisses me off the most about Kevin Durant, with your point of him thinking that he's much better than he is his whole take on his rings. I don't know if you know what I mean, but he really thinks I don't know. We all know the narrative. We all know that the Kevin Durant's rings are fake narrative, blah blah blah. But he really he really thinks that he's on that level. I don't really know what I'm trying to say right here, but he thinks his rings are on the same level as everyone else's, and in
He
my eyes,
doesn't
they're
like
really not. They're really
everybody
not.
else will say that they're not, and like we are able to put context to those rings, and Kevin Durant, the guy that was actually there for them, he's just oblivious. He's just like, no, I don't care. These are rings. Rings are rings. But guess what? Bill Russell's 11 rings don't mean the same as LeBron James ring.
Exactly.
Like they don't. And context is so important in sports. And for a guy like Kevin Durant, who always goes around and praises like, oh, like if you know the game and you watch the game, then you know the context and you know how we should be talking. And like these Twitter narratives are stupid. But the thing is, Kevin Durant, he starts the Twitter narratives. 90%, he is a Twitter narrative machine about himself, which is what makes it so it started with the burner account. He was sitting there on a burner account pushing narratives to make him seem like a better person. And like that kind of stuff, it's evident. Like you see it and you can anybody who like thinks critically, that pisses them off. Like nobody is okay with being around somebody and being close to somebody who acts like that. And as much as I love Kevin Durant as a player, like he's an all-time great player, so much talent, he does not know how to handle himself. And so what? Say he can come and attack me on Twitter, but that'll further prove my point. Like he does it often. He will go and attack random people on Twitter just because he doesn't feel good about himself. It's weak. It's so weak.
My la-
I don't know what to say about it.
my last point with that is this, just to give context. Kevin Durant won 2 rings and 2 Finals MVPs for the Golden State Warriors in his time. I don't think any Warriors fan out there will ever say that Kevin Durant was their favorite Warrior of all time, and he did that for them. And that's just very evident. I don't think a Nets fan will ever say that. And for God's sakes, I don't think a Thunder fan would ever say that, at least out
Ask a
loud.
Warriors fan who the better Warrior of all time is, Andre Iguodala or Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Every single one will tell you Andre Iguodala without hesitation, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah. So, I mean, Kevin Durant, you are who you are. Great player, but I don't really like you that much, if I'm being honest with you. Moving on right now, we're kind of running a little late on time. So let's bring it down to the World Series today. We're going to do a little different. We're not going to be really going into the in-depth everything, but just an X factor for each team. My two, I have Nick Castellanos and Justin Verlander. I'm going to start with Nick Castellanos. The big reason that I have this guy on this list is he has not shown up this whole year, really, for what his contract's worth. He put up decent numbers, not really that good at all, but especially for the contract, they were awful. He had his one game this postseason against the Braves where he did everything, and he's had a couple sparingly hits every here and there. To beat a team like the Houston Astros, you are going to have to protect Bryce Harper in that lineup. You're going to have to make these pitchers not pitch around him. You don't want this guy getting walked every single time that he's up at the plate, knowing that you're up next. You want these pitchers to go, oh shit, we really can't walk this guy because we have another guy coming up right after him. And especially with this Houston pitching staff, it's going to take everybody. But I think Nick Castellanos, he's probably slated to hit fifth right after Harper. You need to show up. And then with Justin Verlander, big guy, Cy Young winner, king. We all know this. We all know how great he is. Married Kate Upton. He's done everything. He sucks in the World Series, and the numbers show his World Series stats. Other than his one run in Houston, were pretty bad. I think he's 0-7 to start his World Series career. 0-7 or 0-8. Just terrible stats. He always seems a little cold when the time starts. It's time to show up. It's time to give you that big World Series Game 1 start if you're the Houston Astros. This is why they're paying you. This is why you're the Cy Young. Your stats look phenomenal all year. You did it in the regular season. You know, we always talk about this. Regular season only means so much. Go out there and prove it on the big stage, especially against this lineup right now who they're coming in hot and they're ready to fire. So go out there. I need a big game from Justin Verlander, and we'll see. We'll see if he can fix this curse he seems to have.
I feel like he will. I genuinely believe that Verlander's the type of guy that will come out, and it doesn't matter how old he is. He's always going to give you his best stuff, and I feel like we're going to get it tonight. Moving back a little bit to Nick Castellanos, I think that this is just one of the worst contracts in baseball, period. I'm looking at his metrics right now. 22nd percentile on average exit velocity, 23rd percentile on hard hit percentage, 6th percentile in chase rate. He's chasing way too many pitches right there. In the outfield, he sucks too. 3rd percentile in outs above average, 6th percentile in outfielder jump. And I mean, going back to the plate, 14% walk percentage. He's not getting on base. He's whiffing at 10th percentile in whiff percentage. There's just no good numbers here. And that scares me from a guy who before had been putting out some really, really good like numbers from the plate. But right now, even his exit velocity is ticking so far down. So I don't know what happens with Nick Castellanos. It's the first year of a huge contract, and can he even bounce back? None of this looks good. None of it.
If he has a good series right now, that contract's worth in every Philadelphian's eyes. But that's my big thing. This guy's going to be. It'd be different if he was hitting in the 7th spot or the 8th spot or something like that. You know what? Do your thing down there. But you're hitting behind the best hitter in baseball right now. You need to give this guy some cushion. I don't know how the Phillies are going to work with that lineup. Maybe they change it around a little bit, but I doubt it. I feel like they're going to be running out there with the same exact lineup.
It feels like Nick Castellanos is on like the Josh Donaldson career path right now, because his numbers, his exit velocity numbers have not changed at all since coming into the league. 88.3 in 2015, 87.5 average right now. 111 max, 110 this year. So like he has not gotten any better or worse as far as making contact, or he hasn't gotten any worse as far as how hard of the contact he's making. It's just he's not making any anymore. And that is not something to me that feels fixable. So I know this is a little bit different than the World Series conversation, but Nick Castellanos, the dude sucks. Sorry, Philly fans. But moving on to my X factors, I wanted to start with Altuve, because if that guy gets hot, the series is over. There's no question about it. He's been so bad in this postseason. He's a non-factor at the plate so far. But if he's able to put anything together at the plate and their lineup stays as consistent as they have been, the Phillies have no chance. So that's just, I felt like an obvious X factor. And the other one for Philadelphia is Real Muto. Real Muto has been one of my favorite players in the league for a long time now. I'd say he's without a doubt the best catcher in the league. And that's the most important position just in baseball, really. Like, put him out there. He's going to be catching every single game. If he's able to call a great game defensively and also able to show up at the plate like he's capable of, I think that he could really come out and be the star of this championship series.
Yeah, I mean, everyone needs to pull their weight. We all know that, especially in the World Series. And that's the beautiful thing about this game. Pierce was the World Series MVP a couple years ago. Jorge Soler was the World Series MVP last year. So you never know who's going to be the big guy who steps up and does it for you. And that's the beautiful thing about baseball. I mean, then you got
McCormick. A guy. Bet on Chas McCormick to win the MVP for Houston.
I mean, he had that one shot against Garrett Cole, and it was night against the Yankees. So, I mean, there's always those players that have to step up to really propel you over the line. So, I'm really excited to see who is that guy who steps up, and, we'll see. But our last thing to close today, nearing on the NFL trade deadline, we one big names moved. Chase, give me your one big guy who you one moved and why.
He's got the same name as me, Chase Claypool. I think we both probably have the same team here, because I'm seeing yours. I want him to the Packers. Chase Claypool needs an all-time great quarterback. I feel like he is one of those guys that could put up 1,800, 1,900 yards if you give him a good quarterback. Like, he just is that kind of a guy, but he's also playing with Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett right now. Nobody's getting him the ball, but if you get this guy the ball, I feel like he's one of those talents that's like, he's just built different from everybody else. 6'4", 230, runs fast, catches the ball, jumps high. He's exceptional, man. That's all I can think of to say about Chase Claypool. He just sucks on the Steelers.
I mean, he's just, as you said in the beginning of the year, do not pick up any Steelers wide receiver in fantasy, because you're just hurting yourself.
Was I wrong?
There.
No,
you were not wrong. Well, my guy, I have DJ Moore, and for obvious reasons, he's in the Carolina dumpster fire right now. I want to see this guy on the Packers as well. I mean, we've been saying it all year, but geez, give Aaron Rodgers a guy. Give DJ Moore. Imagine going, okay, just picture this. Imagine going from PJ Walker one week to go and catching balls from Aaron Rodgers the next one. Like, that's crazy. I feel like that will just fix so many things in that whole entire trade. That will fix DJ Moore. His mindset right now, I feel like, will be completely different. Aaron Rodgers will be like, at least I have somebody to throw to. Packers offense can be changed a little bit. Actually, I feel like the game planning could go back to a little bit of what it was last year with the Devontae Adams scheme. Not as much, obviously, because Devontae Adams is much better, but you know what I mean by that. But there's just so many aspects to why I think this trade makes sense. Will the Packers overpay a little bit and give the Panthers what they're asking for? No. That's why I think this trade probably won't happen. And Packers are, I mean, they're a bitch. If I'm just being honest, I think they are such a bitch of an organization. They never really want to make that big move unless it involves giving Aaron Rodgers $60 million a year, and that's really it. And that kind of made me a little sad about the Packers season. I mean, another rumor I've seen about DJ Moore is to the Giants, but man, as an Eagles fan, I don't really want to see that. And I just don't want to see Daniel Jones. I don't think he's getting traded either, but man, I'd love to see it, especially for a good haul. Because you know what, I thought the Christian McCaffrey was worth a 4th-round pick, maybe, and man, I was wrong about that. So we'll see. And if the Panthers do get a good offer, and I think if it includes a 1st-round pick plus, I think they definitely have to consider that.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I don't think anybody's offering a 1st-round pick for DJ Moore on the last year of his deal. Did he get extended?
Yeah, he got extended.
That's even worse. I'm not paying DJ Moore $20 million and a 1st.
What's his contract right now? I mean,
there's no way he'd sign anything less than $20 million with Carolina. I'd say 4 years, 80.
Let's see. Oh, this is, yeah, it's 3. Wow, this is a huge deal. Next year makes $25 million and $20 million and $20 million. Then he's a free agent at 29.
Yeah.
So I mean,
what was it?
What a Panthers contract.
So 60.
Yeah, it's till 2025. I mean, you get him through his whole prime, but man, that is $20 million for a wide receiver. The wide receiver market is just crazy now.
Yeah.
But it's just funny to look at.
Kirk.
Yeah, really. Christian Kirk changed the game. I would have loved to see the reaction on every GM's face when they saw that contract given out. They were probably
the same as our face.
I was like, wow, shit. Well, no, these are the guys having to hand over these contracts now.
True.
I mean, if I was the guy who had to pay Devontae Adams or any of these big names, I'd be like, oh my God. I'm going to close this off on one more thing. This wasn't really in the script, but where do you think OBJ lands? Where do you think this guy lands now? I mean, I thought it was going to be the Chiefs, Buffalo. But after that Tony trade, I don't really know. What'd you say?
Buffalo.
I could see that. I just don't want to see that. Like, I don't know if that
the thing is, there's only like 3 teams it could be. It's like the Giants, Buffalo, or the Chiefs, and the Chiefs just cut themselves out. So, like, who else? There's really nobody else that Odell's going to.
Even as an Eagles fan,
I wouldn't.
The Giants trade would be. No, I'm not saying Eagles. I'm saying even as an Eagles fan, I'd like to. It'd be cool to see it back on the Giants, but I don't think he plays there again after all the shit he said about the turf.
He shouldn't.
He hates the turf, and that ruined his career as as one of the best young wide receivers in the league. But I'm curious to see what happens. And he said he was going to sign soon. He said earlier November he was looking for. So that's really it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today on the CCSN podcast. I'm Chris here with Chase. Go Phillies today, baby! Make sure to follow us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.